Right. Good morning, good afternoon, Powur Hitters, Solar Warrior Tribe, and all friends of Powur. My name is Jarrett McAllister, your mentor and co-host. Today is Tuesday, February 14th. And I have one question for my main man, Jonathan Brunasso. Will you be my Valentine?
Oh, I'm blushing, Jarrett.
Happy
Maybe
Valentine's
it can be you, Mike, and me, and we'll have that trifecta.
There we go. Yeah, man. Hey, welcome, dude. Happy Tuesday.
Happy Valentine's Day, everyone out there. Definitely.
For sure. For
Happy
sure.
Valentine's Day.
Yeah. Yeah. Welcome, everybody. And definitely feeling the love today. I think Mr. Patterson's feeling the love today. We got quite a few people on this call. We got a great training for everyone coming up on, excuse me, a pretty big topic that a lot of people, there's a lot of mystery there. A lot of people are intrigued, and that's batteries, right? Which could be one of the big solutions to NEM 3.0 here in California. So looking forward to kicking off that training, but we are going to start this week off like we do every single week, and that's with success stories. So if you have some success stories, if you've closed a deal or got a new recruit or overcame some adversity, go ahead, raise your hand. Let's get in line. Iselia, I saw you drop your hand up, so we'll definitely start with the lovely Iselia.
Isela.
Hi, everyone. Happy Valentine's Day. What a beautiful day to celebrate love and here in Powur. So I just wanted to share with you all, I love first responders. As you know, my brother's a firefighter. So when I first started my campaign last year, I was really shy and, would knock on the doors. But now one of the firefighters went full on solar with me last week, brought lunch to the crew, took me on a ride with Choco, and then had a great presentation on NEM 3.0. I got 3 strong leads from there. And I created this cute little postcard that talks about NEM 3.0, has all the information, and dropped that off. So if you first responders are great, as you all know. So I just wanted to share that with you all. Just really excited to celebrate the love with you all.
Nice.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing. That's a great looking card.
Excellent.
And we do love our first responders. Very much so. John, I see your hand up, brother. What you got for us?
I had sent out a bunch of messages on Facebook Messenger to friends, and I'm in South America, but it was in Florida, and it was, I split it with, I had Moises be my mentor, and he just went over there and closed it. So I'm psyched.
I don't know what's going on with that.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Hold on.
Everybody ever seen Max Headroom? I might be dating myself there, but that's a.
How about now? Is the voice better?
Yeah, we can hear you, John. Yeah,
a little bit.
Now it's okay.
Yep.
Okay.
You were saying Moises.
Yeah, I
went and got some deals for you.
Yeah, I sent out a bunch of messages a few weeks ago to some friends on Messenger, and then created an appointment for this morning, and Moises went over there and closed it. It was in Florida, and I'm in South America, so he went over there and closed it. So it's like,
dude, right on, man. That's awesome, and just shows the power of the Powur platform, right? I think you said you're in South America.
Yeah,
it's literally shooting out text messages to his circle, right? The people he knows, set up appointments. He had an all-star go out there, crush it, split the deals 50-50. You got to love that. Love that. So great job, John. All right, next, we have a man that stole a piece of my heart back at leadership training. My man, Ramsey Clark. Dude, happy V-Day, brother.
Thank you, brother. Same to you. Happy Valentine's Day, everyone. I have 2 success stories. One, I onboarded a consultant who's in Brazil, old friend of mine many years ago. He's on the platform. We're working out his business launch. And I have a BNI success story, which is I'm in a BNI that's completely virtual. So it's 100% online. So what I do is I go visit other chapters And I visited this chapter and spoke with people, connected, did some one-to-ones, and I ended up onboarding a home inspector who saw the value in the Powur platform. So he's joined the team and we're working on his business launch and the copyright for his clientele and how we're going to reach back out to them. So those are my 2 successes.
Beautiful, Ramsey. Thank you for sharing that. BNI, you've heard there every single week. It works if you work it. And yeah, just onboarded an enterprise member. So that's incredible. Great job, my brother. All right, we're going to go Bill, Tracy, Denise, and David. Okay, in that order. And then we're going to move on to battery. So Bill, happy V-Day,
right.
my brother. What
All
you
right,
got?
happy Valentine's Day, everyone. I said happy Valentine's Day to my bride first thing this morning. Anyway, gosh, okay, I got my first official cancellation in Powur, and I was a little bit bummed. The guy was an older guy, and it turns out he just kind of freaked out, and I wasn't going to push him, and you know, I could have said all kinds of things to try to turn him around, but it wasn't right. So, but I couldn't even worry about that because I got like 9 deals going right now that are in the process of signing or needing to be signed, personal deals. So if you're worried about having failure, just go find some more people. And I did just change my Zoom my BNI affiliation too. My group kind of went sideways a little bit in some areas, and so I joined a all virtual Zoom. I'm now part of the Tracy Business Builders.
Awesome.
Cool, man.
Anyway, so
Dude,
yeah.
I love that. It's like, hey, let's not be shy. Cancellations happen very rarely. I mean, very rarely. But you know what? Someone put it in the chat. Fill your pipeline, right?
Yeah.
If you got 1 or 2 deals and one of them were to cancel or you had an issue with, oh my God, the sky is falling, right? It's half of your income. But if you're crushing 10, 12, 15 sales a month and 1 or 2 something happens, does it matter? Absolutely not. You're just moving on, right? So it's just part of the business. Great job. Love the attitude. Go get it. Love you, Bill. All right, Tracy, what you got?
So I have another BNI success story. I did my presentation last week, and the financial planner in the group said, "Hey, I have somebody who needs some help with their electric bill. Their average electric bill is about $2,200 a month, and he's working on financial planning for them. So he's like, you know, I want you to work with this family and see how much money you can save them going solar." So in the process of doing that, BNI is definitely worth it, or, you know, whatever other business networking group. It's definitely worth getting involved.
Definitely. 100%. I've never heard anyone say that they've gotten involved in BNI and it wasn't working for them. Great. That's awesome. Thank you, Tracy, for sharing that with us. All right. And then Denise, go ahead. Happy
Hi.
Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's Day, everyone. I have a new recruit. Her name is Nancy, and she's on this call, and I'm super proud of her. She's jumping in, getting started, getting off to a fast start. So we're going to make some money.
Yeah. Well, welcome, Nancy. Welcome to the team. Great job, Denise, leading from the front. You got an awesome team member to work with. All right. And then we're going to wrap this up. David, what you got, brother? Happy Valentine's Day.
Hey guys, so handful of quick wins to just share briefly. One, had my first install in South Carolina last week since joining the platform, and that was contract to install in like under 40 days. So they were super pleased, pumped. They asked for a yard sign actually, so I sent that out to them to join the ambassador program. Took documents on a deal in Massachusetts last week, or I guess beginning of this week as well, that I've been working on, an engineer style mindset. So a number of emails back and forth. Brought on a new seller, Trey. He may be on this call from Tennessee, actually, and we don't service Tennessee, but he has connection throughout the country. So he's super fired up. And then if you remember a few weeks ago, I talked about a deal that I was working on with the company Reminder Media. that has 50,000 real estate and loan officer clients subscribed to their magazine. So I brought Rick Joseph, Tyler Ingley, and Charles Thompson on that call, and it couldn't have gone any better. The CEO of that company is super fired up, and now it's just coming down to execution and marketing it appropriately. But they also want to do a write-up in their magazine about Powur specifically that gets delivered to 15 million households throughout the country. So assuming that we can execute upon that appropriately, there's a lot of different, obviously, big long-term benefits to that relationship. So we're just in the midst of unpacking that now and putting together a marketing plan to their clients, and should be breaking the ice here within the next few weeks with them.
Is that
David.
it? Is that it, David?
Yeah.
And that's it.
Who is this David character, Jarrett, that came out of nowhere? Financial advisors just dial.
Yeah, and I'm transitioning away from that business, the consulting business, once I get revenue up to match what I'm making now. But I basically work 4 to 8 or 9 p.m. every night on solar once I'm done that job. So doing a bunch of activity. I think last week I kept maybe 17 or 18 appointments over that time period. So just doing my best to maximize the platform part-time until eventually I can transition full-time, and based on some of those wins, hopefully I can do so within the coming months.
Nice part-time work, bro.
Thanks.
God, man, that's really. I was gonna talk about how I had a realtor text like 7 of her clients in a group message to me, and I set up all the appointments, but I don't even think I could follow up with that. So I'm just gonna not bring that part up. No, great job, dude. No, you're crushing it, man.
I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Well, thank you everyone for sharing the love, your love for Powur and everything we got going on this beautiful day. And with that being said, we're going to move on to Tom's quote. Tom, brother, what you got for us today?
Thanks, Jarrett. I just read this story and I wanted to share it. I loved this little reminder about how attitude can change the lives of people and companies. So this is a quick story. At the beginning of the 20th century, an English shoe manufacturer who was concerned about the decline of its sales in England decided to try to open new markets overseas. And the sales manager called 2 of his sales managers in and proposed that they travel to Africa to try to open a new market to increase their sales. So both sales guys left by boat for Africa with instructions to make this first survey of the market. So they were going to do market development meetings in Africa, just like we're starting later on today at noon for NorCal and tomorrow afternoon for SoCal. So got there, and the first sales guy got there and called the factory owner and said, after several days of surveying the market, not really any potential for new shoe sales. Boss, he said, everybody's barefoot here. Nobody wears shoes. We're not going to be able to sell a single pair of shoes. Now, the next day, the second sales guy called his boss and was totally stoked and said, this is just fantastic. No one here wears shoes. No one wears shoes. We're going to be able to sell thousands of pairs of shoes. So this is another donut versus the whole story, but it highlights how important attitude is. Why do some get what they want and others don't? 80% of success is probably due to attitude, and an optimistic attitude makes us see opportunities in all of the challenges or obstacles that life holds for us. And a pessimistic attitude makes us see little difficulties in all of the new opportunities that we hold in life. Henry Ford said, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right.
You're right.
Back to you, Jarrett and Jonathan.
Thanks, brother. Dude, I love that. It's all about your attitude, your positive mental attitude, your go get it attitude, your make it happen attitude. And I think that's something that all of us share on this call, right? So that quote at the end, I live and die by that. I tell my kids that It's so true. So thank you for sharing that with us today, Tom. Appreciate
So
it, brother.
good.
Jonathan,
So
you got
good.
some, you want to give us some updates, future trainings, and then let's kick off this training?
Yeah, I need 1 minute. Thank you, Jarrett. Thank you, Tom, and everybody. I know we're running a little behind here. I'm going to breeze through this, take a screenshot. Every Monday, JC training. Today, we got Valentine's Day battery training. Powercalendar.com, guys, has so many things like enterprise training with Melissa Dawson. I was on last week. Women of Power. Power on if you're new. Go take an onboarding. Go to powercalendar.com. Building with Bobby. I believe this week is with Cami, if I have that right. And so much more in Power Calendar. We really have to focus in on Career Week. I think I typed this. Yeah, it is February. Solar Pros, home services, real estate. I'll tell you in a second. Market development meetings, like Tom said, today is NorCal. And again, just go to Power Calendar. Right here, we have Florida, we have Northern California and Nevada today, and Colorado, the Carolinas. Rachel McDonald does a lease PPA training. So make sure to attend your local market meetings on Zoom and check out all the fantastic trainings here. As usual, March 3rd and 4th, check your emails because there's a 2-day virtual convention. Jeremy Miner's a guest speaker. A few of us here are guest speakers. And so it's going to be epic for 2 days, Friday and Saturday. And lastly, SolarCon. So Career Week, as said, February 20th is Solar Pros. It's virtual, live on stage. I'm going to try to make it to headquarters. Home services, and then real estate. Invite people into these events and Zooms. Go to powercalendar.com, check your email, and build your business, guys. The virtual Power World event, March 3rd and 4th. Again, mark your calendars, 2 days. This is free. They used to be hundreds of dollars, but it's included with your monthly membership. SolarCon, if you go to attendsolarcon.com or just Google SolarCon, it's an event in Utah. I know Jarrett and Owen Carey bought their tickets. Power is going to be a major sponsor. Jonathan Budsby speaking on stage. And I have a 40% off solar realtor code for y'all. It was half off, but that ended. So this is the best discount I can get everyone. I'm not making anything off of this. This is just to get as many of us there, get great education, get networking, and it's going to be a very epic event. Power is going to have their own giant booth and private conference room as well. Net metering 3.0, please go to the knowledge base, check the toolkit, download the pictures, share the articles, share the scripts, give realtors the scripts. There's so much that you can do with NEM 3.0. And before I hand it off, Mike might touch on this, but if you want to take a screenshot of this, this is the latest battery pricing and estimated margin, which we make 70% of commission. So the estimated price. Now you have to add sales tax depending on the state. So take a screenshot of this. If you're watching the recording on my YouTube, take a screenshot, but this is the latest pricing and margin, and don't forget to add sales tax, but we can circle back to this. So I'm excited to introduce our main speaker today.
Chris, sorry, can you go back to that real quick? Sorry.
Oh God, who let him in here?
It's
Gus,
me.
get out of
I
here,
know.
bro.
I know.
Oh
I
my
love you.
goodness
Come on.
gracious.
I feel like I wish I was on your team. I feel like I am.
You owe me 2 hugs, Gus.
I love you.
Get out of here. Okay. Stealing my thunder. You have 3 seconds to take a screenshot of this. You can go back later and watch it on my YouTube recording as well. And we'll show this again at the
And I got it.
at the Q&A. Okay, thanks, Gus. Asking for a friend.
Thanks.
All right, so today's training, we're going to do 35, 40 minutes with this gentleman, do some Q&A at the end, and then we'll stick around for 30 minutes after that for just open office Q&A. But Mike Patterson is someone with an amazing story. If you don't follow him on social media, Facebook, Instagram, you want to. He's likely one of the smartest solar professionals with the battery knowledge in the field. He's done in-depth knowledge with the SolarEdge team and engineers, also with EnPhase, and can really speak to batteries better than most people, even in markets in Florida where electricity is not that expensive. And he sells the benefits, and he's already seen tremendous success with the storms and so many other things. He's a first responder by trade, recently has upgraded his truck, his home, and so many other things thanks to the Powur opportunity. So Mike, welcome, my friend. Can't wait for your training today. Take it away.
Happy to be here. Let me share my screen. All right, can everybody see and hear me okay?
Sounds great.
All right, perfect. So we're going to go over how to win in this upcoming NEM 3.0 with batteries. So what we're going to go over is recapping what is NEM 3.0. I'm sure you've all heard of it. You know something about it. But why are batteries going to help? Why is that essential? What batteries does Powur offer? What can we give the customer? And what do you need to consider when you're designing a system for something like NEM 3.0 or any other state outside of California where you've got some sort of complicated non-one-to-one net metering? And then, what are the advantages with each brand? We want to give the best custom solution for each customer and each need. So you want to know which way to go for that. So just to recap, what is NEM 3.0? In short, to the people of California, NEM 3.0 was your government letting you down. Instead of leading in solar, they're taking a chunk out of it. So what are you going to do? Are you going to roll over, quit, concede, or are you going to fight back? So in a nutshell, the export values, any surplus electricity that you produce that your house doesn't use, if you send it back to your utility, it is significantly discounted now. It's based on a specific hourly rate, which varies every month and even differs between weekend and weekdays. Particularly PG&E and SCE, they're probably the two worst offenders here. They do have an export adder, which is based on your time of connection. So that's helping to ease the transition in, but it's nowhere near as good as what they have right now. You're going to be switching from an annual to a monthly true-up bill. So every month, if you are in deficit, you're going to have to pay. And they're also capping to no more than 150% oversizing. So here's an example of those export rates. This is with PG&E. And you can see if we look in April and it happens to be 11 a.m., you're making 0.3 of a cent per kilowatt hour that you send them. If it's noon, you're making nothing. 1 o'clock, nothing, and so on. You will see this little window here in green. If it's September and somehow you have some surplus production at 6 and 7 o'clock at night, you're making in the neighborhood of $3 per kilowatt hour. That just means that they really need that electricity at that time. So is that an opportunity to maybe dump your battery out to the grid? Maybe, but that's about the only time that you're getting good buyback. You can see the rest of the time you're making, sometimes less than a penny, and most of the time less than 10 cents per kilowatt. Versus what are they going to charge you if you need that electricity? I guarantee you it's a lot more than that. So how do batteries play in? Why is that essential? Why is that going to help for any customers who you don't get in before the deadline? This is a screenshot I just happened to come across today. Everybody is out there seeing that batteries are about to be critical. The supply of batteries, I think, is fairly stable right now. It's not going up for a couple of years, but it's definitely not going down. But demand is about to skyrocket because just about every house in 3.0 for solar to make sense financially is going to need a battery. So I showed you that energy you produce, if you export it, it's going to be massively discounted. So wouldn't it be better if you could just hang on to it and use it? That's what we're trying to do with the batteries here. Some of the batteries are programmable. So you can prioritize self-consumption. You can even program them for what is your utility rate scheme. So that way you're minimizing how much you have to import when electricity is expensive, and maybe even maximizing what you export when your export rate is high. And topic for a future training, but they might open up a few little loopholes that we'll talk about at another time. So what does Powur offer for batteries? This is a very, very quick recap. If you want more details on this, look at some previous trainings that we've done, but we have the SolarEdge and EnPhase batteries. SolarEdge has recently rebranded to SolarEdge Home. It's a DC coupled battery. They're 10 kilowatt hour increments. And DC coupled basically means that the battery ties directly to the energy hub inverter. So yes, you do need an energy hub. You cannot put this on a standard HD wave inverter. You can put up to 3 batteries, so 30 kilowatt hours per energy hub inverter. And these batteries do not have a separate inverter. And probably very importantly for you in California, They do not have a separate connection point, so it's less of a load on their main panel. Also, because it's DC coupled, you get something called DC coupled oversizing, which basically means if you have an energy hub and a properly sized battery, you can oversize the solar up to 200%. So for real simple math, if you had a energy hub 10,000, you could put up to a 20 kilowatt solar system on that. And the way that works is if your 20 kilowatt solar system is producing more than the 10,000 watts that that inverter can handle, rather than clipping that excess production, it simply bypasses the inverter and is stored in the battery because the battery is fed DC. It doesn't have to go through a conversion to AC and then a conversion back to DC. So you could use that, for example, to not have to do a main panel upgrade. I'm spoiled here in Florida. We never do that. But from my understanding in California, it's common and it's expensive and it takes a very long time. So maybe instead of spending that money on main panel upgrade, you get them a battery, you oversize the inverter, and you just avoid that headache while also giving them extra capability. Something to think about. The SolarEdge home battery has a peak output of 7.5 kilowatts, 7,500 watts, and it'll sustain 5,000 watts. That's per battery. Now, each energy hub maxes out at 15 kilowatts and 10,000 watts sustained, meaning that you max out the power output from each energy hub from 2 batteries. Adding that third battery simply gives you more energy capacity. Now, it is important to know this is on the 7,600 and up energy hub. So the 7,600 and up basically have the same guts inside them, the same electrical guts, but they're software down-tuned for on-grid performance. If you have an outage, now it can basically artificially scale up and get you that full output. This is what they look like, a very compact unit. This is 2 of them, so a total of 20 kilowatt hours. They can be installed inside or outside. Clearly, this is outside with a nice little palm tree for scale. They are pretty heavy, so your installers might not like that, but they're a good self-contained battery, passively cooled, no moving parts. So the SolarEdge home ecosystem, this is all of the smart home equipment that ties into the energy hub. You've got an EV charger, which connects directly to the inverter. Again, that's taking another load out of your main panel. Have load controllers coming out any day now. So that's giving you kind of the function of a smart panel without the huge expense of replacing your main panel with something like a span. And possibly even more localized control, controlling individual appliances rather than an entire. And then in the future, there's going to be more things like smart outlets, thermostats, and so on, all tied directly into this smart home ecosystem that they're trying to make. And then also the home battery system can integrate with existing standby generators. That's more of a concern out my way here in Florida, where we're building these systems for outages coming from things like hurricanes. Now, the EnPhase battery, this functions entirely differently. It is an AC coupled battery, which means that it is fed and it outputs current in AC. So when the solar is producing, it's going to go through the EnPhase microinverter and be converted into AC. And then it's going to go to the battery, be converted back to DC. And then when you need it, it has to go through the inverter again and be converted back to AC. So these batteries actually have their own microinverters inside. Each little subunit, they come in 3.36 kilowatt hour subunits. Each one of those has 4 microinverters, so 12 for the whole 10 kilowatt hour battery that we're typically selling. This does have a separate connection point, so it's actually easier to retrofit. You don't have to worry about, do they have a battery capable inverter already? But as a result, they also have a lower power output. So they peak for a 10 kilowatt hour battery at 5,000 watts, and they can sustain 3,800 watts. This is what they look like. This is without the case off on the left. You can see they're kind of modular. So each 10 is really just a sum of 3 of the 3.36 units. And you can see the microinverters inside there as well. And then they feed into the combiner and critical load panels and so on. And then just like the SolarEdge battery, they can be installed inside or outside. There are also no moving parts. It's all passively cooled. So that's what we have. Now, how do you integrate this into a design? So the first thing you need to ask yourself and ask your customer is, what is the purpose? What's the goal of your backup or of your battery system? Is it backup? In that case, you need to look at power output first and foremost. Or are you looking at peak shaving? or self-consumption, maximizing time of use savings, things like that. In those cases, we need to look at the energy capacity. You need to look at what's the lifespan, what's the warranty on the batteries, and what other special features do those batteries include. So you really need to size by that goal. When you determine that goal, that helps determine your size. If backup is your primary concern, power output is king. That's first and foremost what you need to look at. We've done previous trainings on this channel. I have previous trainings on my YouTube channel. Go look at those for that, or shoot me a message. Purpose of today's training, we're looking at self-consumption or time of use savings. So if those are your goal, now energy capacity becomes our primary concern. How much energy can that hold? Think about it. What's the gas tank size effectively? How much fuel, how much electricity can that battery hold? And you need to figure out how much energy the home that you're working with might consume during those peak times. Or if you're just going for pure self-consumption, how much energy are they going to consume when your system's not producing well? So nighttime, storms, and so on. You really want to minimize any energy that you're importing, especially you want to minimize anything that you're importing when it's expensive. So this is a photo courtesy of Michelle at SolarEdge. They've been great, gave a lot of material for this presentation, a lot of training. They have a great NEM 3.0 training themselves that I highly encourage you to look at. I know Jonathan put a link to it earlier. But think about this as a house's consumption throughout the day, right? Your typical house. You wake up in the morning, people are taking showers, getting ready, cooking breakfast. And then throughout most of the day, your usage tends to go down because you're away at work, kids are at school, whatever. But that happens to be when you're producing the most. And then you get home, consumption spikes again. Maybe it's your AC or heat or whatever kicked on because now there's people home again. You're cooking dinner, you're taking showers, you're getting ready for bed. The problem is the two spikes in your usage aren't when you're producing energy. So in the old system, you just exported all of this energy, you earned credits, and you use them in these times. That's not going to fly anymore. So now you need to take this energy that you produce during the day, all of this surplus, because you're producing a lot, but you're not using a lot, and you put it in your battery. And then you take your battery and you apply that energy in the evening when it's most expensive. And if you have some more, in the mornings as well, the following morning before it recharges. Now, anytime you're doing self-consumption, you're inevitably going to be frequently and possibly deep cycling the battery. You're getting a lot more cycles and a lot deeper cycles than you do if you're building a battery for a backup purpose. So these are all lithium-ion batteries. By default, they all have a 10-year warranty from the manufacturer, and they do not have coverage from PowerCare. These are excluded from PowerCare. So with EnPhase, you get a 10-year warranty. There is a 3,600 cycle limit on that warranty. Think about it like a car warranty. You get 5 years, 60,000 miles, whichever comes first. Same thing here. 10 years, 3,600 cycles, whichever comes first, warranty's over. SolarEdge, also 10 years, but they do give you unlimited cycles, which is nice. There are options to extend the warranties. The only one that we currently offer through Powur is if you build your system and finance your system or lease your system through Sunnova, they put a 25-year Platinum Protect warranty that covers the battery. It's been said for a while that there's an upcharge for that. I know there's a little bit of disagreement right now whether they are upcharging for that. So we need to clarify that. But basically in 25 years, I can guarantee you these batteries are being replaced, especially if you're using them on a daily basis. So what special features do the batteries offer? Most modern batteries, both SolarEdge and EnPhase, are programmable. They have usage profiles. The simplest one that you would use in a market where you're trying to use the battery daily is self-consumption. If you have poor net metering, your buyback is not equal to your purchase cost, and no time of use rates, self-consumption is perfect. You set a reserve level, that's the minimum level that you'll let that battery discharge to. So if you set it to 20%, and it's an 8 kilowatt hour battery or a 10 kilowatt hour battery, you have 8 kilowatt hours to play with, and it's going to save 2 just in case there's an outage. You set it to 30, 10, whatever. You want to set that based on how likely is it that you're going to have an outage in your area. The more storm prone, the more outage prone you are. So here in Florida in September, maybe have a higher reserve. In California, if you're in an area that's prone to rolling blackouts and it's the windy fire season, maybe set a higher reserve. But then during your safer times of year, lower that reserve and make more use of the battery. They also have Storm Watch, Weather Guard, a bunch of different names for it. But those are modes that will automatically switch the battery to backup only. If there's basically a National Weather Service alert of some sort of event that is likely to cause an outage, the battery will automatically switch to backup only and do everything it can to charge itself up and hold on to that charge in the case of an outage. And then you have backup only. That's best for places that have fixed one-to-one net metering. So here in Florida, our major utilities, when I sell batteries, I always coach people, hey, put it on backup only. Don't stress your battery, don't cycle your battery, keep it full, because we never know when the outage is going to happen. It might just be a brownout because too many people's air conditioners kick on at the same time. It might be some old lady drives into a transformer and the outage, you get a power outage, but the weather's perfect. And it might be Hurricane Ian again. You never know, so keep it full. But that only makes sense for areas with one-to-one net metering. Now, there's also time of use programming, and this is going to be most interesting for anyone in California with 3.0. I know the SolarEdge home ecosystem is programmable. It has time of use rate schedules. You can enter that in there. And the battery is going to maximize self-consumption and prioritize saving its charge for when energy is the most expensive. It's going to do everything it can to prevent you from importing electricity or minimize how much electricity you're going to import when you would pay the most for it. It's going to attempt to charge the battery when energy is the cheapest or in surplus, and then deplete it to that peak. You could even export surplus at those peak rates. If you remember, I showed you there's that little green spot on that chart where you could get up to $3 a watt or per kilowatt hour. It's up to you to decide based on the usage habits and what the homeowner needs, whether that's a good idea financially, but it is technically possible. You can also include the EV charger. So with that, you can prioritize charging when energy is in surplus. So what that basically means is, if you're producing 10 kilowatts and your house is drawing 4, it could just automatically only charge with 6. That way you're not importing to charge your car. Or you could program it to charge your car when the electricity is the cheapest. And then you could add load controllers, which can be programmed to eliminate low priority loads during your peak hours. So if you're somebody who works out of the house 9 to 5, and you don't need some sort of appliance running during the day that is just drawing a small amount of electricity in the background, you could have those load controllers programmed to turn those off during your peak times. So that way they're not pulling expensive electricity from the grid. This is a screenshot of the SolarEdge Home app, and just showing you have your self-consumption, time of use, backup only, and so on. The installer should be able to do a lot of the initial programming, but please make sure to verify with your customers that it was set up properly. Now, I did reach out to EnPhase also back in December. I haven't heard back, unfortunately, so I don't any confirmation for sure on time of use with EnPhase. What I do know, the IQ battery can do self-consumption. It has a self-consumption profile. That's where it's just going to, if you have energy in your battery and you need energy and your solar's not providing it, the battery will provide it. What I don't know is, do they have specific time of use savings? This is not something that we currently offer, but it may be coming down the road. Reason it's easier, like I said, is because it doesn't really care to an extent what the existing EnPhase inverters are. It just needs to be tied to an EnPhase system. It has its own inverters in the battery. So now my opinions. I've sold dozens of battery systems, both brands. Last 18 months I've been with Powur. If you remember, if you've been around that long, we used to only have EnPhase, and then we added SolarEdge, I think about 8 months to a year ago. And my early EnPhase installs were great, largely successful, very happy clients. But in the last year, since the IQ Controller 2 came out, we've had a really high failure rate of the communications chip. It's a known issue with them. They've admitted as such. Solution's going to come out. And the problem is that the battery and the system are not communicating. The system doesn't know the battery exists effectively. That's a problem. If your system doesn't know it has the battery and you hit peak rates, it can't tap into the battery. Also, following Hurricane Ian, we had a large amount of these systems that didn't engage the transfer switch. They didn't kick in, and actually had installers driving all over the west coast of the state with inverter generators, wiring them in and jump starting, trying to get the disconnect to engage. So a little red flag there. Now with the SolarEdge home battery, that's become my go-to since it was introduced. Main reason at first was the power output. That's our big concern here. Almost all of my systems are for backup. They do have a much simpler commissioning process, which my installers like. And overall, it's been a great experience. Their customer service, Jason, who I think's on here, has been tremendous. The company has actually sent field engineers to help the install crews when it's one of their first installs with this new product, to help them get up to speed and make sure the installations went successful. So that was great. But we have had a very small number of backup interfaces showing up from CED DOA, dead on arrival. They have been quickly replaced, but just one thing to bear in mind, which any high-tech electrical component, you're going to have some amount of failure there. Knock on wood, I haven't had any drop after install. The only issue I've had has been ones that showed up not working. And that's delayed the system by about a week or less. So how does this relate to California? How does this relate to 3.0? Obviously, I'm an outsider. I'm sitting here on my ranch in Florida. So from an outside looking in, it's obvious that batteries are going to be a huge part of your everyday pitch going forward. I personally believe that the SolarEdge battery has a competitive advantage right now compared to what else is out there, again, right now. Better warranty, potentially a better time of use management. I know it's a good time of use management. I just don't know exactly what others are offering. Better smart device integration. And from what I'm told, California has a lot of electric vehicles, so that direct EV charger and avoiding charging on peak could be huge for you. And then the ability to avoid MPUs, that could be really big for you as well in terms of cost, in terms of helping to offset the cost of the battery, in terms of project delays and so on. If you don't need to do an MPU, don't do one, and this helps you get away from it. So those are my personal opinions based on my experience. At the end of the day, I'm not here to tell you what to do. So as a solar professional, it is up to you. Provide unbiased guidance to your clients, design the best system on an individual basis. That's the big take-home message here. The system costs with batteries are definitely higher, but that makes the stakes higher. If you have a happy customer and a happy battery customer, that's probably the best referral source you ever have. After any major storm here in Florida, I get tons of referrals because people want to know why their neighbor, who was my customer, has air conditioning when they don't. As long as the system works, it's a referral generating machine. But an angry customer's complaints are magnified by the heightened price of a battery system. If you have an angry customer on a $20,000 system, they're going to make some noise. You have an angry customer on an $80,000 or $100,000 system, you can imagine how much that gets magnified. So do your best, learn the system, learn the product, and do right by your customers. It'll serve you well in the long run. So we got some Q&A time here. I see 41 chats. So Jonathan, have you been keeping track of questions in the chat? How do you want to do this?
I have not. I had to change computers because my computer crashed, but if anyone wants to jump in, let me let some people unmute themselves. And I believe we have Doug who has his hand raised. So see if you can ask your question, Doug.
Sure. Actually, it's not necessarily a question. I just wanted to let you know, Mike, I'm reading from the EnPhase app. I do have a battery with them. Under self-consumption, it says use stored solar to power your home after the sun goes down. Battery is used when solar is not available.
Okay, yeah, so that would be regular self-consumption. I do know they have that. What I'm curious about is whether you can program the utility rates in and have it prioritized for time of use rates.
You can, Mike.
You can.
Yeah, you can absolutely, on an EnPhase battery, you can do all those things as far as set it up to sell the energy back when time of use is high, and stuff like that. So you absolutely can do that.
Perfect. Yeah, we're spoiled here. It's illegal for the utilities to force time of use rates in Florida, so we don't have to.
You guys have a really good governor that made sure that was the case. So
I thought you would like that meme in there.
I appreciate that one. I will go back. There were a few questions. So hold on really quick. I had one that was up at the top. You mentioned the amount of cycles, 3,600 cycles.
Yes.
What constitutes a cycle? So like if you're at like 90% and you drop to 70 and go back up, is that a cycle?
Yep, when you switch from charge to discharge. So there's limitations on cycles, throughput, and depth of discharge with a lot of the common batteries. But a cycle is simply when you switch from one to another, when you shift from charge to discharge.
Because that would, I mean, you could theoretically cycle 4 or 5 times in a day.
Exactly.
So more than that, I mean, you could just drop a little bit, but.
Yep.
So are we sure that that's the definition? What's absolutely?
As for what they're tracking in their apps, I don't know for sure. That is what is widely considered a cycle. You know, are they going to, you know, for example, it's a nice sunny day, you're producing 8 kW, but your house demands for a brief instant 8.1 to start your AC. If it drops you from 100% to 99.9% and then back to 100, is that a cycle? I don't know from their point of view, but yeah, I mean, if you want to be super technical, that would be a cycle.
Okay, gotcha. Doug, you have a question?
Just a statement, I noticed the SolarEdge batteries in the picture there were by windows. In California, you can't be within 3 to even 5 feet sometimes, depending on jurisdiction, from having a battery close to a window.
Sure. Yeah, and you know, those might have been out of California pictures. And obviously, if we're going to install a battery, we're going to install it where you can install it. A lot of people install them within garages, but then they have to be 3 feet clearance or stuff like that. But we'll make it work, you know, according to the jurisdiction. So, all right. With that said, Jose, you have a question?
Yeah, I like how Mike put it as far as a customer that's happy with an expensive project will give you referrals. A customer that's unhappy with an expensive project like batteries will make the most noise you've ever heard. And I've been on the phone with EnPhase over 3 hours to get an LED light replaced. They keep making an order to replace it, and then they keep taking that order back. So it's a 1 hour process again to try to get that order. So they are a pain in the ass to deal with, and they're literally down the street from where I live.
You should go knock on their door, Jose.
Yeah, unfortunately, I've had a similar experience lately with their customer service on failed batteries. So, yeah, I feel you. And customers with expensive systems do make a lot of noise, good or bad.
I can just suggest that if you have any of these problems with EnPhase you were talking about, my experience is being on Spencer's call every week. You can address these things with Spencer, and he's very, very good at addressing them and getting them handled. He's been amazing at taking care of a couple of problems I've had with a couple of installs. I just want to throw that out there.
Thank you for sharing that, Alan. Yeah, I mean, Spencer is a great resource. I think Brunasso dropped in the chat. There is a link to the Facebook group, the EnPhase Facebook group with direct connection. So, you know, listen, you guys, obviously both companies have their positives, their negatives. Some people have had great experiences with both. Everybody's had a negative experience with either one. Like, it all happens. But yeah, I mean, both these companies, great companies, they're very responsive, you know, to go with that. Frank did ask, what SolarEdge optimizer would you use with a 10 kilowatt battery?
Optimizers based on the solar panel, not the battery. So
Correct.
Every panel we offer right now should have the S440 on it. I've seen some engineering plans still coming back with the P400, but they should all have the S440s.
Gotcha. Oliver asked, if you had 3 or 4 10 kilowatt batteries, can you keep some full and program others to cycle every day?
So let's say you had 4 for an easy number. It's 40 kilowatt hours. What you would do if you wanted that, you know, let's say you wanted 2 full and 2 to cycle, you would just set your reserve to 50%. And what it would do is use them all evenly. So that way they're all cycling evenly for warranty purposes. But, you know, they would basically draw all 4 down to 50%, which gives you 20 kilowatt hours, which is the same as 2 full and 2 empty. But no, you can't individually say discharge this one and charge that one, to my knowledge anyways.
Thank you. Someone asked if you can give a little bit more information on the SGIP. That is the self-generation credit that you get here in California. I don't know if you know much about it or how that works.
Jason, do you want to chime in? I think you might have the answer for that one.
I could speak
Now,
to that as
you were
well.
talking about incentives the other day, so.
Hey guys, my name is Jason Deli. I'm the account manager for SolarEdge for Powur. Mike asked me to join here just to kind of support for any questions like this. So any other SolarEdge questions, SolarEdge related questions, feel free to ask me here too. But to address that directly, S-chip is generally targeted at basically areas of California where there is fire hazards. There's certain things you can go on their website and they'll have a map that'll highlight, where eligibility generally is. Basically, I did hear recently, I think in July, they're looking at refunding that program. It's like $650 million. But when you look at the ITC plus S-chip, if that homeowner is in those areas, the batteries almost become close to being free. It's not quite there because of financing and things like that, but ultimately S-chip plus the ITC, the 30% tax credit, significantly reduces the cost of the homeowner there. The only thing I would caution, and maybe others on the call may have more experience here, is I believe you have to apply after the fact. So there may be some disclaimers of sorts that you want to offer to homeowners, just acknowledging that if you are eligible, we'll apply for this kind of a thing. But maybe some others on the call here have some more direct experience with processing S-chip in the background there.
Yeah. Thank you, Jason. Let me speak to S-chip real quickly, everybody. S-chip is regarding California. It's an additional rebate check that homeowners get when they get a battery in California. I just got a battery here in Vegas, my SolarEdge battery. I think I might get $900 here. But I want to reference S-chip for a second in California. It's around $1,200 right now, last I saw. I put Natalie Morris's email into the chat, I believe. She's the one that handles the rebates for California. Powur's been really good. They actually apply for the S-chip. Thank you, Jason, for putting the link in the file there. And then I also included the fire map. So if depending on if the home is in a fire zone, there could be additional funds. If the homeowner is on a CPAP machine or care, they have a water well on the property, there could be additional funds. I always say we will apply for them. We will see if there are funds available. This is not guaranteed. On average, per 10 kilowatt battery, it's around $1,200 one-time rebate. Yes, JC, one time per battery in California. So that's what's called the S-chip rebate.
Very good, very good. Thank you for that, Jonathan. Yeah, just to reiterate, do not promise an S-chip to any of your clients. Like you said, if you're eligible for it, we will apply for it. And if you get it, it's icing on the cake, but do not count on it. Mike, someone is asking about max amperage output per battery for EnPhase and SolarEdge. I think kind of follow that up with talk about an AC unit, because I feel like a lot of people, that's one of the things they go, well, hey, yeah, if the power goes out, can I turn on my AC?
Yeah.
And, you really have to set proper expectations with the battery. One 10 kilowatt hour battery is good for some LED lights, keeping your fridge going. You can keep your Wi-Fi going, charge your phone, maybe open your garage door opener. But if you want to do beyond that, you need at least 2 batteries.
Yep.
A lot of cases 3 or 4. So things like a well pump, your AC, stuff like that. Can you talk about the amperage needing from that and how much it takes and what it would require from each battery?
Yeah. So to start with, the EnPhase batteries, because they're AC coupled, they have a separate connection point. So each 10 kilowatt hour battery is technically 22.727272 forever amps at 220 volts. So 25 amp breaker probably for each one. So you need that capacity in your panel to be able to add it. The SolarEdge battery, being that it's DC coupled, is sharing the breaker with the inverter. So if you can fit that inverter, the batteries behind the inverter, you don't have any additional need for backfeed. Now, in terms of output and what you can back up, basically the rule of thumb is, most of these major appliances we're talking about are 220 volts. So if you take the peak output, so in the case of SolarEdge, 7,500, divide that by 220, and you've got 34 amps per battery. Likewise for EnPhase, 5,000 divided by 220. You've got, again, that 23 amps per battery. that is the peak. That's what it can start, but not sustain. So in the case of an air conditioner, anything with an electric motor, compressor, etc., they're going to have that big peak, that big surge when they start, but it quickly drops off. So 2 SolarEdge batteries, 68 amps, most air conditioners, you can start with that. I would still put a soft start capacitor on it for sure. Just try and decrease that starting surge, make the system more stable. Because the less you're demanding at one time, the less likely you are to have other loads that are also trying to run exceed your maximum output. With EnPhase, if you have 2 batteries, you're at 45 amps. Now you're going to have to look at what the locked rotor amps are for your specific AC unit, or the cheater way, look at the breaker it's on. It can't be higher than the breaker size that it's connected to. And again, you might be able to fit a smaller AC on there with a soft start capacitor. You're kind of rolling the dice now, because depending on the efficiency of the AC that they have, the effectiveness of that soft start capacitor is going to be different from one model. No way to predict, okay, for this AC, I'm going to drop the starting amperage from 50 to 30 or something like that. There's no way to predict that other than just trial, guess and check. So usually most air conditioners you would want 3, or as Drew just threw in there, yes, a variable speed or an inverter based AC. If your customer happens to have one of those, much easier to back up. At least here, incredibly rare. Split units, also much easier to back up. So people who want a smaller unit, if they need air conditioning, what I'll typically suggest is either we need to do a bigger battery system, or get yourself some portable ACs, pick a room, plug those into the wall outlet, keep that one room cooled. But you're not going to be able to back up a whole home 5-ton AC on 2 batteries, most likely, two EnPhase batteries anyways.
Cool, man. Thank you for that. And Colby, hopefully that answered your question there. Definitely put that into perspective. Jonathan, we are up against it. It's 11:04. I know people have a ton of questions. We can keep it going. I know we're going to do office hour after this, but what do you think? A couple people have their hands raised, or how do you want to do this?
Yeah, there's been a ton of resources in the chat. Huge shout out to Mike. Please bookmark and save all of these amazing resources, guys. There's tons and tons. But I have a hard stop at 11:30, so let's do 20 more minutes of Q&A. If you have to hop off, feel free. Shout out to Mike in the chat there. Thank you, Mike, and Jason from SolarEdge as well. But let's keep going for 20 minutes. We'll do Q&A.
Cool. Mike, you had your hand raised first. What you got, brother?
Thank you, and thanks, Mike. I was just wondering if anyone knows if Solo is going to update for self-consumption mode as far as energy bill goes, because now it's just doing backup only. So if you change that, it still shows a bill.
Yeah, it'd be nice. What I recommend and what I do right now for the occasional co-op that I need to run self-consumption on is I'll actually build it in Sunnova, even if I have no intention of using Sunnova, because their calculator seems to be a little bit more advanced, and it does factor that in, and then I'll just override back into Solo with whatever residual bill from Sunnova is showing.
Great. Thanks, Mike. Appreciate that.
That's a great hack. Josh, you're next, brother.
Thank you. Quick question on back to the amperage question, as far as installing a mini split might be a solution, but are there any other solutions that you're exploring as an as an installer perhaps, that have higher amperage draws? I know there are products out there. I've seen them used, I've sold them. And that's kind of the thing a lot of people want. Can I charge my EV, if the grid's down? And the answer is probably not with the current systems, but there are some that could. So that's my question. Can we install those anytime in the future, do you think?
Yeah, so the EV, if you can get your hands on the SolarEdge EV charger, you can run that in surplus mode, charge it without limiting your home backup. And because it's all running behind the same breaker, you don't have to consider that as a backup load. So I tell people who have that concern, this is effectively the only way to charge an EV off grid right now, other than just an outright massive battery system. Other major loads, larger air conditioners, big well pumps, things like that. You can get, like somebody mentioned, a higher efficiency, so variable speed, inverter driven. You can put soft start capacitors on them, but you can only decrease the start surge by so much. So, you know, there's no way you're ever going to fit a 5-ton AC on one battery, put it that way. You know, you need power output. You can just kind of decrease that surge to begin with. And it's all about pairing the right size battery to what that customer needs backed up. What's their priority?
Thank you, Mike. James, you had your hand up?
Yeah, hi, everybody. This is great, Mike. Thanks so much. Quick question. How do you deal with customers in states that have low power outages? And, you know, they might be rightly thinking, well, I only get 1 or 2, maybe a year at the most.
Mike's muted, but I would think not everyone is a candidate for batteries, you know, that just might not be the case. But Mike, what do you got? You're muted. Go ahead.
I muted you, sorry.
Oh, good. Yeah, no, I mean, not everyone needs a battery. Traditionally, we've done them in Florida because of outages. Our grid's fairly weak right now because so many people are moving here and it's taxing the grid. And then we get these pesky hurricanes every year. But, you know, in other states, if you don't have a lot of outages and you have a good net metering, you don't need a battery. Save yourself $10, $20, $30, $40,000. You got to look at each customer's specific needs and build the system that they actually need, and that would benefit them.
Great, thanks a lot.
Absolutely. Yeah, it has to make sense, you guys. Like, I'll be honest, I tell most of my customers, you know, I shy them away from batteries because financially it doesn't make the most sense. But now with NEM 3.0, it's going to make sense, right? So if they don't experience it, why spend the extra money? It is a luxury currently rather than a necessity, but that is going to change soon. Gustavo, my brother.
Hey, what's up, bro? Hey, can you hear me?
Yep.
All right. So I sell a lot of batteries in California, Mass, Connecticut, Florida. My question is toward Jonathan. At the powers that may be up top, John, on the proposal, when I send a proposal out to a customer and it doesn't show the batteries on the proposal with a separate wattage, do you know what I'm talking about? It's annoying as hell. And the customer's seeing a $9 kilowatt charge per pricing and the battery, it's not showing the batteries. So if anybody, John, if you have influence up there, I mean, I could, you know, text Charles or somebody, but you probably have a little bit more, probably a lot more influence than I do to maybe get that changed to where it separates, where it says the price per kilowatt and it says 2 batteries, 1 battery, 2, 3, or whatever. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. It's been talked about before. The relationship with Solo has been stressed. We are working on a proprietary design tool called Powur Vision, which will fix this problem, which might come out in a quarter or 2. In the meantime, if you could share that feedback with Matt Gordon, I put his email in the chat for you there, Gus.
Thanks, brother.
I can't agree more. You know, I'm sure Mike does something similar, but of course I attach the spec sheet in an email. I spell it out in the email. I'm sure we all do this, but yes, I would love for it to be in Solo. Let's just keep hammering them with the feedback.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're working on it. I will tell you that for sure. They are working on all that behind the scenes. Lily, you have a question?
Yes. Is it safe to say, like, if a homeowner needs a 10 kilowatt system size, is it safe to say to match the 10 kilowatt battery? Because I know there's like the production is, you know, less. So with a 10 kilowatt system size, what is the advisable size of the battery for the whole house?
You're going off of 2 completely different things there. So the system size is kilowatts, that's a measure of power. The batteries are kilowatt hours, that's a measure of energy. To size the battery, you can't just look at the solar system size. You need to look at why do they need the battery? Is it for backup? Okay, now we need to look primarily at the power output of the battery, get enough of those for whatever loads they need backed up. If it's for time of use or self-consumption, now we need to look more at the capacity, the kilowatt hours, and make sure that we're providing enough capacity to get them through, you know, basically nighttime, peak time, whenever we're trying to make sure that they're not imported. So 2 different things, you really can't tie those together.
Thank you. Just follow up. So with the 10 kilowatt system size, what is the advisable battery size for a full house?
There's no way to tie those together. You have to look at what are the loads on the house. You know, if they have gas, backing up a whole house is easier. If they are all electric appliances and it's here in Florida, I mean, I've had people who would need 8 batteries to back up a whole house here. You know, you got to look at what appliances need to be backed up, what kind of power output do they need, and what type of energy draw are they going to have.
Okay, thank
really
you.
need to look at the specifics, unfortunately.
Yeah, Lily,
I
you
wish it was
really
that
need
easy.
to look. You really need to look at their consumption, how many kilowatt hours they're consuming per day, and then that time during the day, and then do the math with how many kilowatt hour battery you have and how many you'll need to get through that time. So
jump in real quick.
On a side note, Mike, I know you're not an EnPhase guy, but you can still use the tool. There is the EnPhase estimator where you can plug in homeowners' information to determine how many batteries they need for their backup. I can put the link in the chat as well.
Yeah, it's a great tool.
Thank you.
Chris just put a SolarEdge one. That's a good starting point for either of them. They're definitely not infallible. So I guess my biggest suggestion is the first couple times you do it, find somebody local who is experienced and kind of knows what they're doing, work with them. This is really not something you want to mess up because of how expensive they are. So it's a good place to start, but dig a little deeper.
Real fast, usually what I say is, you know, a battery, Lily, can back up 3 to 4 circuits, usually under 25 amps. It's just a rough rule of thumb. If they want some AC, that's going to be 2 to 4 batteries. So that's honestly as advanced as I get when I help clients.
Thank you.
That's why he sells a ton of systems, you guys. That's the secret sauce right there.
Yeah, me too, John.
3 to 4 circuits of battery. That's it.
The other rule of thumb you could do is major appliances plus 1, which is more applicable to SolarEdge. But if you've got 1 AC, that's 1 major appliance, so 2 batteries, 2 ACs, 3 batteries, and so on. Again, starting point, it's not perfect.
And just also, you guys, so you know, EnPhase, SolarEdge both have full training courses on batteries. You can get certified with both companies. It's free to do so. So, you know, I recommend everybody investing into yourself, learning about batteries, learning how they work, become an expert in the field. I've taken the EnPhase battery certification. You know, I've gone through the SolarEdge, so it's worth going through it. I highly recommend
Especially
it.
if you're selling in California.
Especially. Yeah, just know what you're talking about. Tracy, what you got?
Hey, I had a comment to make about the battery, and somebody had said, you know, if you don't have blackouts, it's really not worth it. But I think in the state of California, it is if people have high time of use rates, if they're the amount they're paying in the time of use, and look at the peak shaving for that, and I think that could definitely help save homeowners a lot of money if they you know, use their battery during the time of use to reduce or eliminate those rates.
Definitely.
So it isn't just for blackouts. The blackouts is kind of a bonus then.
Yep. Each customer's needs are going to be different. Some are going to be outages and some are going to be just bad net metering schemes and being self-reliant. So definitely.
For sure. Michael, you have your hand raised?
Yeah. Is this right, Michael? Yeah, so I had a back feed constraint from the utility. They capped me to 10 kilowatt hours AC. And the customer had wanted a 17 kilowatt design. So we actually put a design together, and we were looking at, I think we can overdrive the EnPhase, overdrive the SolarEdge 10,000, overdrive it by 125% or something. So I was able to put a larger array and guarantee that I don't exceed the back feed.
Yeah.
However, we were looking at making that upgradable. I guess there would be I could even go closer to 17 kilowatts if I were to put a battery on that SolarEdge. However, at that point, I would need to put a hub in for future expansion. Now the hubs only come at 11,400. So I'm wondering, can I meet the back feed? And they're not upgraded to the latest regulatory and so forth. So they're not going to accept a software kind of solution. So I need that hard solution.
Are you in Core in Colorado by any chance?
No, I'm actually in New Jersey.
Okay, yeah, we get something similar in Core. There is an Energy Hub 10,000. It's not on Solo, but CED has them. We can order them. I've done it in Core in Colorado. What I would suggest is build it in Solo with the 11,400 and let the project manager know.
Okay, all right, cool.
And then you could oversize that up to 200% with a properly sized battery on it.
And then instead of losing power under peak conditions, right, I can sneak that power through the DC to the battery in a future upgrade if I put a battery in there.
Yep. But now just to note, the Energy Hub alone does not allow you to go to 200%. The Energy Hub with the battery allows you to go to 200%. So, you know, at 10,000 Energy Hub, you could do up to a 20 kW system with a properly sized battery. Without the battery, you're effectively the same sizing constraints as the HD Wave because you have nowhere for that excess energy to go.
Right on. I think we lost him, but yeah, good stuff. That was I did not know about the 10,000. That's good. Good knowledge, Mike. Dieter.
DDA.
DDA. So my apologies. DDA.
No
What
worries.
do you got?
A quick question. With 3 batteries, 10 kilowatt for SolarEdge, what kind of SolarEdge inverters I should choose?
So the SolarEdge inverter is based on the solar system size. Now you can do up to 3 batteries per inverter, but you're maxing your power output with 2. So if your goal is power output, so a backup goal, you might want to split up your inverters. And again, depending on system size, do you have a project in mind? Do you know the system size?
Yes, sir. The system size is 14.7.
Okay. And the 3 batteries, is that selected for power output or is that for self-consumption?
I'm in discussion with him. That part I didn't know. He just say he wants 3 batteries because someone called him 3 batteries. And I'm waiting also for him to send me the code so I can see what they did.
So what I would do in that case, as long as this isn't going to raise any concerns with main panel upgrades or anything like that, I would give him 2 Energy Hub 7600s. That's overkill for the system size, but that's going to get you the most power output out of the 3 batteries and get you the strongest backup.
Thank you, sir.
We lost Jarrett. So any other questions? Let's go through the chat here.
Just to reiterate, I have a question. Sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
So what you were just talking about, having 2 energy hubs would allow double the amp output. So now you would be looking to be able to, let's say, run an air conditioner and charge an EV both at 50 amps, correct?
No. So at that point, if you had 3 batteries, so that's 30,000 watts divided by 220, you're at a total of 136 amps now, peak. All right. So yes, you could just about any air conditioner you could back up at that point. For the EV charger, I would put them on the SolarEdge EV charger because you could charge an EV with 1 battery then, as long as you have enough production, as long as you're on surplus mode.
Mike, I have a question for you. Oh, and if you're done with that one.
Yeah, I just want to gloss back over that because I think that's probably one of the most common confusions. So you can put 3 batteries per energy hub, but your power output is maxed out by 2. All right. So 15,000 watts peak, 10,000 sustained with 2. With 3, it's the same. 3 is just adding more energy capacity per energy hub. So by putting a second energy hub on there, what we're doing is putting 2 on one, 1 on the other. So we're getting 15,000 watts out of one energy hub. We're getting 7,500 out of the other in backup output while still having that 30 kilowatt hours of capacity. See lots of dazed looks on the. Does that make sense to everyone, or do I need to go over that one again?
No, I mean, I see what you're saying. So basically, you can only get the max output on 2. If you wanted to go for the third, you would need to then get a second energy hub, which that allows that third battery, and then you could go for a fourth. So it's 2 per. But if you put 3 on 1, all you're using is the excess storage, not the power output of that third. Did I recap that correctly?
Yeah, so I'll make a car analogy. You put that third battery, you didn't make your engine any bigger. You just put a bigger gas tank in the car.
Gotcha. Perfect.
Hey, Mike, I do have one question. Sorry. It's kind of driving me nuts because I feel like I'll either message you, but I think it'll be better if everyone hears this.
Okay.
Leading back into our training from last week on backfeed and what we can do with the main service panel. As far as when I add a battery, is that battery added in that backfeed calculation? And if so, on a 10 kilowatt hour EnPhase battery, for example, how much backfeed does that take up?
So I believe that one's 23 amps roughly. I saw in the chat, we have somebody else, Justin Fuller on here. Do you want to answer that one since you're from EnPhase? He might not be on anymore. Email that one to his email address is in the chat, but I believe it's going to be roughly 23, or it's going to be put on a 25 amp breaker, but that's not a concern that we deal with here. So that's a little bit out of my wheelhouse. I don't run into that. I do know for sure with the SolarEdge battery, it's nothing additional to the inverter because it's behind the inverter, where the EnPhase battery is going to be a separate connection. So you do have connections for both the solar and the battery separately.
Gotcha. And then what I was going to ask is about the ability to power the home through the battery. That is one of the benefits that EnPhase batteries do allow you to do, is that when the grid goes down, that it actually kind of works essentially as like a bypass or a pass through. So it allows the solar to power the home through the battery. And then when the sun goes down, battery kicks on, gets you through the night, sun comes back up, starts recharging the battery, powering the home. In layman's terms, that's what it's doing.
Yeah.
How does that work with the SolarEdge battery? Is it powering the home while charging it at the same time, or like how does that work?
So let me back up a little bit. When you have an outage with either system, what's happening is you have a transfer switch and it disconnects you from the grid. Okay. And now the battery is becoming your quote unquote grid, or as they like to call it, microgrid. So in either scenario, your system is producing. Now in an EnPhase system, your system's producing, converting to AC right away. And if your house needs it, it's taking that energy. And then the surplus is going to go to the battery and charge it. Or if the battery's full, it's just going to downrate your production to basically match what you're demanding as best as it can. With the SolarEdge system, your energy is going to come off, go to the energy hub, and that's basically directing traffic. So if your house needs it, it just uses it. If your house doesn't need it, it goes to the battery. If the battery is full and your house doesn't need it, maybe you have that EV charger on and it sends the surplus to your car. If not, you just lose it. It downrates it at that point. So both of them are going to be very similar there.
Cool.
A different pathway, but they're accomplishing the same thing.
Excuse me, but let me have an understanding of this so that with the new SolarEdge system, with the new battery that they have, you're saying that it is creating in the same way that the EnPhase ensemble system creates a microgrid. And I'm saying with battery, okay, not the whole daylight solar thing, but with battery, okay, let's say you got a system that has at least one 10 kilowatt hour battery. With EnPhase, you'll have during the day, the home runs on solar energy. And as long as you've built a big enough system, everything runs in the home. Okay. And then at night, they're limited to the capacity of the battery.
No, and that's not how EnPhase works either. You said EnPhase with one battery. If you have one battery, there's nowhere that I know under code that's going to allow you to back up a 5-ton AC, for example. Even if your solar.
No, it can't do the AC. Right.
So
I know it can't do the AC.
You're still, the battery needs to be sized for worst case scenario. All right. And I always tell my customers, we're building it for the worst case, which is crazy storm with no solar production, outage in the middle of the night, whatever. We're not planning on solar. Now, if there is good solar production, even better. But you can't, a 10 kilowatt hour battery with either one is not doing a whole home backup, hands down. You know, in theory, it probably could if you had tons of solar output. You know, if we're building the system in Phoenix, where you never get a cloud in the sky and you've got a perfect south-facing ground mount, it probably could. But I would still never recommend that because that's not going to be a reliable system. If the battery cannot handle whatever the load is, you're entirely reliant on real-time output. And if you exceed real-time output plus what the battery can supply by so much as a watt, you crash the system.
Right.
Well, thanks,
Okay.
Mike. I really
Yeah,
appreciate
thank you.
that, man. It is, we are up against it. We got to switch over to office hour. But as you guys can see, Mike is a tremendous resource we have here at Powur. Thank you so much for your time, you know, your commitment to the team and everything. And obviously, if you guys have questions, you have deals with batteries, feel free to hit up Mike, tag him as a tier 3. He'll help you out with that. But with that said, you guys go ahead, throw your thanks in the chat. We're going to wrap this up, finish the recording, and then switch over to office hour.
Awesome.
Thanks for the
Yes.
opportunity, guys. Happy to be here.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.